Honorable Chairman, Sir, Justice Chandramouli Kumar Prasad, Secretary, Press Council of India, Srimati Anupama Bhatnagar, Shri Prakash Dubey ji, Member, Press Council of India, to please take their seats on the dais. Namaskar, ladies and gentlemen. The Press Council of India congratulates the press and the media fraternity on the National Press Day for their untiring commitment to uphold the ethos of journalism. We are honored to have with us today eminent journalist and author Sri Swaminathan Gurumurthy, the Honorable Chairman, Press Council of India, Mr. Justice Chandramouli Kumar Prasad, Srimati Anupama Bhatnagar, Secretary, Press Council of India, Shri Prakash Dubey, Group Editor, Dainik Bhaskar, and Member, Press Council, the members of the Press Council of India, distinguished guests and participants. The Press Council of India welcomes your esteemed participation on this day to commemorate the establishment of the Press Council. May I request Honorable Chairman, Press Council of India, Shri Chandramouli Kumar Prasad, to welcome the guest of honor, Shri Swaminathan Gurumurthy ji, with a bouquet. May I now request Srimati Anupama Bhatnagar, Secretary, Press Council of India, to present a bouquet to the Chairman. I would also like to request Secretary Madam to present a bouquet to the Member, Press Council of India, Shri Prakash Dubey ji. I would like to request Secretary, Chair, Press Council of India, to please hand over the memento to our guest of honor, Shri Swaminathan Gurumurthy ji. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on this very day in 1966, the Press Council of India started functioning with the dual objective of preserving the freedom of the press and of maintaining the standards of newspapers and news agencies in India. To mark the inauguration of the National Press Day celebrations, may I now invite the guest of honor, Shri Swaminathan Gurumurthy, and Honorable Chairman, Press Council of India, Shri Chandramouli Kumar Prasad, for the auspicious lamp lighting ceremony. I may request all the dignitaries on the dais to please join them. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Shri Prakash Dubey ji, Member Press Council of India, to introduce our esteemed guest of honor and share some insights on today's topic, who is not afraid of the media.
आप सबको नमस्कार। इस मौसम से बिना डरे हुए आप सब लोग यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं, इसलिए सबसे पहले आप सबको नमस्कार। और उसके बाद नमस्कार मंच पर बैठे हुए अध्यक्ष माननीय चंद्रमौली कुमार प्रसाद और प्रेस काउंसिल की सचिव श्रीमती अनुपमा भटनागर जी, और उसके बाद वनक्कम थिरु स्वामीनाथन गुरुमूर्ति। ये आज का जो कार्यक्रम है, इसमें सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि बहुत लंबे अंतराल के बाद हम लोग यहाँ पर एक दूसरे के सामने मौजूद होकर बात कर पा रहे हैं, वरना एक महामारी ने हमें एक दूसरे से बहुत दूर कर दिया था। इस महामारी में बहुत लोग अपनी जान गंवा चुके हैं और उनमें वो पत्रकार शामिल हैं जिन्होंने बिना डरे हुए अपना काम पूरा किया और उसके लिए अपनी जान कसौटी पर लगाई और जान देने से भी डरे नहीं। इसलिए आज का ये कुछ अनोखा अटपटा सा विषय जो आप यहाँ पर देख रहे हैं, आपको लग रहा होगा कि ये विषय कुछ अलग सा है। और ये विषय अगर इस तरह का अटपटा लगता है तो इसके लिए प्रेस काउंसिल में जब चर्चा हो रही थी तो विषय ये आया था कि पत्रकारों से कौन नहीं डरता। तो इस परिषद के, इस काउंसिल के हमारे एक अनुभवी सदस्य जिन्होंने वर्षों तक प्रेस ट्रस्ट ऑफ इंडिया नाम की न्यूज एजेंसी में काम किया है, जी सुधाकर नायर, उन्होंने अपने अनुभव के आधार पर थोड़ा सा बदलाव किया, थोड़ा सा ट्रीट किया। उन्होंने कहा इसको बदल के ये कर दो, हु इज़ नॉट अफ्रेड ऑफ मीडिया। ये जो हम कहते हैं इसको थोड़ा सा चेंज किया है, आपने देखा है यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है। तो ये जो बदलाव है, इससे आज की स्थिति से ये पूरी की पूरी चीज़ जुड़ गई। और अगर ये इस तरह का विषय है तो मुझे लगता है कि थिरु गुरुमूर्ति से बेहतर कोई वक्ता यहाँ पर नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि यहाँ जो लोग बैठे हैं उनमें से अधिकांश लोग ऐसे होंगे जो 1975 से लेके 1980 वाले दशक में भी बहुत सक्रिय होंगे और उन्होंने उस समय महसूस किया होगा कि उस समय की सत्ता के बारे में दो टूक बोलने के लिए बहुत सारे बंधन रहे हों, लेकिन जो कुछ लोग नहीं डरे उनमें से एक आज हमारे वक्ता है। उन लोगों को ये भी याद होगा कि कारपोरेट सेक्टर को लेकर आज जो 10 तरह की चिंताएं हैं, उनकी ताकत बढ़ने की, और ऐसा लगता है कि कुछ लोग तो इस नतीजे पर पहुंच गए हैं, और वो नतीजा ये है कि कम से कम कारपोरेट सेक्टर आजकल मीडिया से नहीं डरता। तो एक ऐसा वक्ता जो बताए कि उन दिनों, मैं किसी कारपोरेट जगत का नाम नहीं लूँगा और ये उचित भी नहीं होगा, लेकिन उसके खिलाफ खम ठोक कर खड़े होने वाले लोगों में से एक आज हमारे वक्ता हैं। ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। और अगर देखा जाए तो इनमें से कई चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जिनके कारण इस तरह के वक्ता की हमें ज़रूरत भी थी। हमने बहुत सारे नाम चुने थे और उनमें से अधिकांश, क्या लगभग सभी संपादक थे। वो तुगलक नाम की एक पत्रिका के संपादक हैं। लेकिन उससे बड़ी बात यह है कि बेबाकी उनके जीवन का हिस्सा है और पत्रकारिता उनके लिए जीविका नहीं, जीवन शैली है। ये एक बड़ा अंतर है। और इसके लिए वो एक व्यक्ति से कहते हैं कि तुम लड़ जाओ और तुम्हें इस प्रदेश का मुख्यमंत्री होना चाहिए, लेकिन जब वो देखते हैं कि कहीं कोई एक गलत हो रही है तो उसके लिए वो कहते हैं कि ये तो सारे नेता इम्पोर्टेंट हैं यहाँ के, और इम्पोर्टेंट से आप इम्पोर्टेंट में कंफ्यूज मत करिए। उसका हिंदी अर्थ आप सारे लोग जानते हैं अगर आप चाहें तो मैं बता दूं, उन्होंने इम्पोर्टेंट यानी नपुंसक शब्द उस पार्टी के कुछ नेताओं के लिए इस्तेमाल किया था। और ये बेबाकी जब जीवन में आती है तो उसका एक और है, उनको इस बात का भी कभी भर नहीं रहा, इस बात को उन्होंने छिपाया नहीं कि वो किस सामाजिक संगठन से जुड़े हुए हैं, उस सामाजिक संगठन का विचार क्या है, और वो सत्ता के पक्ष में है या विरोध में है। तो पत्रकारिता में ये जो कुछ चीज़ों की हमें ज़रूरत होती है, मुझे लगता है कि आज के विषय को लेते हुए उनका यहाँ पर मौजूद होना हम लोगों के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। और मित्रों, एक बात और अंत में कहना चाहूँगा, माधवराव सप्रे का आपने नाम सुना होगा, हिंदी पत्रकारिता के एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण व्यक्ति हैं, जिन्होंने पहली बार कहानी हिंदी में लिखी थी, एक टोकरी भर मिट्टी, और उनका ये 150वां जयंती वर्ष है। और मैं उसका उल्लेख क्यों कर रहा हूँ, किस तरह के दबाव आते हैं। लोग जब कहते हैं मीडिया से कौन नहीं डरता है, और मीडिया किससे डरता है, इसका उदाहरण उनका जीवन है। माधवराव सप्रे लोकमान्य तिलक के अखबार केसरी का हिंदी में संपादन कर रहे थे, और संपादन करते हुए जो लिख रहे थे उसके कारण उनको गिरफ्तार किया गया। उनसे कहा गया तुम माफ़ी मांगोगे तो तुम्हें रिहा कर देंगे। उन्होंने माफ़ी मांगने से इनकार कर दिया, लेकिन इसके बावजूद उनको माफ़ी मांगनी पड़ी। क्यों? कि उनके भाई सरकारी नौकरी करते थे फिरंगी सरकार में। उनके भाई ने कहा कि मेरी नौकरी चली जाएगी, दबाव देखिए किस तरह से आते हैं, और उन्होंने कहा कि तुम अगर माफ़ी नहीं मांगोगे तो मैं आत्महत्या कर दूंगा। और इसलिए उन्होंने माफ़ी मांगी, लेकिन उसके बाद उन्होंने एक लंबे समय के लिए पत्रकारिता छोड़ दी और संन्यास ले लिया। बाद में फिर वो भाषा के, उनकी मातृभाषा मराठी थी, लेकिन वो हिंदी में आए, और हिंदी पत्रकारिता को जिस ऊंचाई पर उन्होंने पहुंचाया है वो एक महत्वपूर्ण है। और अगर आप देखें तो आपको पता होगा, वर्ष 2017 में एक पत्रिका ने इस देश के 50 सबसे प्रभावशाली लोगों की एक सूची बनाई थी। उसमें तीसरा नाम था थिरो स्वामीनाथन गुरुमूर्ति का। ये उनको याद होना हो, हम सब लोगों को याद है, क्योंकि हम पत्रकारिता से जुड़े हुए हैं। और अब आज हम उनसे ये जानना चाहेंगे कि रिजर्व बैंक के डायरेक्टर बनने के साथ में और इस तरह का एक महत्वपूर्ण स्थान पाने के बाद आज क्या वो सोचते हैं कि सचमुच पत्रकारों से कोई डरता है, या अब स्थिति आ रही है कि पत्रकारों को कहीं किसी से डरना पड़ रहा है। ताज़ा उदाहरण है जिसका मुझे उल्लेख करना चाहिए, वरना मुझे लगता है कि इस मंच की सार्थकता कम होगी। आप देखिए, त्रिपुरा में 2 महिला पत्रकारों को गिरफ्तार किया जाता है। एक का नाम है समृद्धि और एक का नाम है स्वर्णा। प्रशासन ने किसी से नहीं पूछा और ये कहा कि फेक न्यूज़ है, और फेक न्यूज़ के कारण उनको हम पहले एफआईआर दर्ज करते हैं और फिर गिरफ्तार करते हैं। उनकी वैसे जमानत हो गई है, लेकिन जमानत की शर्त यह है कि 75,000 रुपये उनकी तरफ से किसी को जमा करने होंगे। मुझे लगता है कि क्या ये विषय ज़्यादा कठिन नहीं हो गया हम लोगों के लिए? अब ये कठिन आपके लिए है या नहीं, ये आपको तय करना है। आप आमंत्रित हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Honorable Chairman of the Press Council, Justice C.K. Prasad, and in a manner of introducing me, making my job difficult and tough and putting a bar on what I have to cross, Shri Prakash Dubey and Srimati Anupama Bhatnagar, who has been facilitating my presence here. And I see many young journalists who may have entered profession beyond the time when I will be talking to you. My good friend, Mr. Balbir Punj, Mr. Surya Prakash, they have all been colleagues of mine in the Indian Express. which made me not only a journalist, but as someone who pursued Indian public life with such intense interest, regardless of the kind of difficulties one will have to face. And this preparation was not my own. This is a preparation which is the ecosystem which the Indian Express created, of which all of us have been part. In fact, Surya Prakash used to say, this is Ramnath Goenka's school of thought. You know, before answering this question, who is not afraid of the media? Unless we trace how the media has changed over the last 50, 60 years, and maybe even more, we will not be able to find an answer to what the media is today. Is the media itself a definable proposition, a definable institution? Has it a head? Has it an owner? So unless you comprehend the media, how it has evolved over a period, even before independence, how the media was. So I would divide the development of the media into 5 stages. One is the pre-independence stage. Second is the post-independence stage. Third is the post-visual media stage. Fourth is the post-liberalization stage. Fifth is the post-social media stage. Unless we comprehend how the media evolved or got distorted over this period, we will not be able to understand what the media is today. To answer this question, who is afraid and who is not afraid of the media? If you look at the pre-independence period, and in fact there is another concept which the first press commission posited for the media and people who use the media and people who assess the media to consider what is independence of the media and what is freedom of press. It was a beautiful exposition which many people may not be aware, because these all in library today, not even in digital form. Independence of media is an ideal. It is freedom from all biases, all likes and dislikes. But freedom of media is freedom from government influence, government pressure, government actions, government policies. So what is practical is freedom of press. Freedom of media is an ideal which I don't think anyone can attempt. Mr. Goenka used to say that there is nothing like an unbiased media. Every media is biased because every human being is biased. So there is nothing called an unbiased, fair media. Everyone has his own views as the fair view. Nobody is going to say, I am going to write something unfair. So, independence of media is a goal, an ideal. But freedom of media is a state of law. Independence of media is a state of mind. So, that is what a journalist, an editor, or even a proprietor must be attempting to do from within, that he must be independent. This is a tussle which everyone undergoes, of which I have been a part at some time. So if you look at the pre-independence Indian media, there were clearly 2 defined categories of media, 2 parallel media, one supporting the freedom movement, another supporting the colonial rule. Most of the Indian media today which is popular, except one media, has been the inheritor of the freedom movement, which fought for freedom, which is part of the freedom movement. And in Tamil Nadu, there was one gentleman by name Subramaniam, who ran a paper which was called Kalana paper. And that Kalana paper, he sold all his properties, destroyed his entire family, and he reached a circulation of 100,000 copies. His idea was to inform people as much as possible, as many people as possible. So the Indian media basically was, or the independent Indian media which was devoted to the freedom of the country, was built on sacrifices. Something which the Indian media today is unaware of. The word sacrifice is not in the dictionary of the Indian media today. This time for introspection, that's why I am beginning wherever I am digressing. There's a pain in me that is coming out in the form of statements like this, for which all of you must pardon me. So, For example, in the 1942 movement, the government clamped pre-censorship. Mahatma Gandhi asked all the newspapers who believe in truth to suspend the publication of the newspapers. And all the nationalist media suspended the publication. And all the colonial newspapers continued the publication. And Mr. Goenka was elected as the president of the Suspended Newspaper Editors Conference. This is the history. Most media people, editors, journalists, historians may not be aware of it. You must relate back to history to great events. Events which molded the media, the truthfulness, the fervor for the country. All these we must relate back, but not only we don't relate back to yesteryears, we don't relate back even to yesterday. That is the state of media today. So, colonial media always supported the colonial government. They always felt, in fact, I remember when a newspaper crossed the 150th year, it wrote an editorial. This newspaper has the distinction of always standing by the stability of the rule of the government. It stood with the British, now it is standing with the Indian government. This appeared to be the historical pride of that paper. Now, if you look at the post-independence media, what is the difference between the pre-independence media and the post-independence media? In pre-independence, you fought for freedom from the British. I am talking about the nationalist newspapers. In the post-independence period, you fought for freedom from the government. And if you look at what are the cases, now all the cases went to the Supreme Court. First, the Indian Express challenged the right of the government to set up wage board for newspapers. Who are you to set up? We will negotiate, we will pay, or we will not pay. We will face the strikes. Who are you to say? First effort of the government to interfere with the newspapers, to bribe the journalists, to say we are doing it for you, was an attempt to influence the media. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court fell a prey to the argument that this is a welfare measure. There is nothing called a welfare measure which is not a measure to bribe people's mind, orientation. So the Supreme Court accepted this principle that wage board could be set up. Came the next case, Sakal case, where the government said, I am now going to introduce a measure to divide how much should be the advertisement space, how much should be the news space, how much should be the price of the newspaper. The Supreme Court struck it down, saying that you cannot distinguish it like this. It interferes with the freedom of the press. I am saying how the concept of freedom evolved from time to time. Third case came the Bennett Coleman case, where on newsprint there were restrictions put on because at that time there was huge pressure on the foreign exchange of India. The Supreme Court said you can't do anything about it. It is the right of the newspapers to have newsprint, because without newsprint you can't print. You can't print means you can't speak. You can't speak means there is freedom for no freedom. Then came the Indian Express building case, where the government said that I will demolish your building because you are speaking things which I don't like. I will go back to the emergency a little later. I am talking about the normal times where the government used to take such harsh measures. We were all part of that effort to defend the paper. Can you think of a situation like this today? Is the media to be afraid today that some building will be demolished and the press will be auctioned? It all happened in our lifetime. We saw it, we fought through it. I have seen Mr. Goenka sitting and drafting without electricity, with a torchlight. The writ petition to be filed when electricity was cut off during the emergency for the Indian Express. The Indian Express did not know the press had been auctioned. The fellow came to lift the press, and 1 crore of rupees worth press was auctioned for 10 lakh rupees by issuing an advertisement in National Herald which nobody reads. This is how the media passed through tough and difficult times. And we were all part of it. So it's not an experience which you gain by reading or by seeing. It's an experience by undergoing the pain. Lawyers used to come and argue without fee. This should be the state of the newspapers. This was the state of the newspapers, the media. And then Indian Express, when the import duty was levied, we went and challenged it in court. Today you are saying it is 15%. Tomorrow you can say it is 50%. What will happen to the newspapers? Supreme Court said, no, you can't do it. You can't levy. And then it was limited to some 3% or something like that. The matter was over with that. Why I am saying this is, post-independence, the media asserted its freedom granted by the Constitution of India, which was not available before 1950. So the balance between the government and the media was taking place in the post-independence period for about 30 or 35 years. Except during the emergency, where what happened, we all know. It was a barbaric rule. And that should not be seen as an exception, that should always be seen as a warning. Any party which ultimately sees one person, one family as the target for protecting, that's what it will do. It has happened all over the world. It happened in India also. And so that is the period when the media suffered the most. Then I will tell you, in the phase 1 and phase 2, pre-independence, post-independence period, the kind of debate and dialogue that used to take place in the media. I have seen Mr. Goenka sitting with Mr. Mulgaonkar, Mr. Kuldeep Nair, Mr. Ajit Bhattacharya, later Arun Shourie. I was the advisor to the paper. They will be sitting and dissecting what editorial should be written that day. This was the thoughtfulness that went into the media. There will be a lot of difference of opinion. Finally, it will be settled by Mr. Goenka. It all used to happen over a period of 2 hours, 3 hours. It will settle at lunch. Can you think of a media running like this today? Where is the discussion taking place? Where is the proprietor? Where is the owner of the news? Where is the editor of the news? It was a thoughtful media. Phase 1 and 2 was thoughtful media. Then came the visual media, and it accompanied globalization and liberalization. These two things put the media in a thoughtless mode. The thoughtlessness is because it was an instant media, a visual media. There is no edit. There is nothing called who applies his mind as to what will be the impact of what is being shown. It is what is happening in the street which is being shown. Previously, if violence happened in the street and somebody wrote a report on that, the editor will sit and say, no, we should not go in this fashion because it will create more violence. Today, violence is shown as violence and it breeds violence because there is no thought entering between the report and the receiver of the report. Thoughtlessness entered the media when the visual media took over and began leading the print media. This is phase 2. One more thing happened. In this period, the newspapers became profit-oriented and the journalists became comfort-oriented. There was a time when in Indian Express, maybe the editor would have a car. I have not seen any other journalist having a car. Today you may see the best cars being owned by any ordinary journalist. Can you deny it? There was a time when those journalists, they were threatened. I recall Ashwini Sareen, because there was a news that in Morina area girls were being bought and sold. We decided we should buy a woman, for which we sent a woman journalist and Ashwini Sareen. We bought a woman, presented that woman before the media and said, this is what is happening. Because the news was being that this is happening, the report was denied. Indian Express actually bought a woman. And the country shook. The government had to act. Then in Tihar jail, all these things are happening. Ashwini Sareen created a law and order situation so that he would be arrested and he would be put in Tihar jail for him to write a direct report. He was a journalist. So these were all stage 2 in which I have seen discussions taking place where Mulgaonkar will be objecting to a front page advertisement. Front page, there should be no advertisement. No color photograph in the front page. From where to where the media has shifted, you can see it's not only advertisement, first 4 pages only advertisement, then you will search for where there is news. So you call this media or you call that media. And this media has also the same protection under the constitution, the same respect. We must understand. The media's orientation has shifted from mission to profit, and the journalist's orientation has shifted from reporting to comfort. So this is the shift which took place in the second and third phase of the media. And with the pictorial presentation, instant news, there is no thoughtfulness. With the result, the so-called thoughtful print media had to follow the instant visual media. Thoughtlessness began destroying the thoughtful media. This is the second stage. And in this, the shift took place from readers to viewers. There was a time when Arun Shourie would write an article of 5,000 words. People will read every word of that. Today there are no people who will read more than 500 words. You know why? It is not that there is not happening for someone to write 2,000 words, but there is no reader to read that 2,000 words. Even 500 words, it is not readable. So it is to be reduced into a capsule of 20 words to invite a reader. If there is no reader, there is no thought. There is no thought, there is no media. Everything is controlled by visual. It is theatre. What is happening today is theatre. Atal Bihari Vajpayee told me once, गुरु मैं जब पत्रकार पूछते हैं मैं सोच के आंसर देता हूँ. अभी तो मीडिया आया है, टीवी आया है, मैं सोचता हूँ तो लोग सोचते हैं हमको कुछ भी मालूम नहीं है. So even a political leader has to speak thoughtlessly. He says, come on, you have put a difficult question. I will answer after 1 minute. Everybody will think this leader, this reporter has put such a question, the leader is struggling. Nobody will think he is thinking. You are supposed to give thoughtless reflections. Do you understand this media? You understand this media is making the opinion of India? This media is making opinion about India? We must introspect on this. And now, the casualty of all this is long-term vision is completely lost. You know, there was a time, I'm very sorry to quote a personal instance. Before the Anna Hazare fast came, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal met me in the Indian Express guest house. Sri Ravi Shankar had sent him to me to find out how Indian Express carried on the Bofors campaign for 3 years. It's something unthinkable today. Some campaign will go on for 3 years and finally pull down a government. And it is not that a newspaper was doing it, it was keeping the interest of the readers alive, the nation alive, the opposition alive, the government alive. So, he wanted to know how to carry on because 2011 he began the agitation, 2014 was the election. So I told him, this is possible only in 2 ways. One, you must work with a newspaper which is committed to support you. Second, you must bring together all the opposition parties to ensure that they take interest in this, because otherwise, if you want to uproot the ruling party, unless you put together the opposition party, this is what we did in 1989, unless you do it, it is not possible. He said, no, I have got the support of one media owner. He will support me thick and through. I said, I have not known of any media owner today who will support anybody thick and through except Mr. Goenka, who is not there today. Then he mentioned, this is the owner. he was my friend. I rang him up and asked him, have you committed to support Mr. Kejriwal? He said, who said this, Guru? I only told him if I gave 30 minutes time over my television for somebody, I will give him 45 minutes time. That's all. Then I told him, you cannot carry on a campaign unless you align with the political forces. It had to be done. If you are taking up issues, no such owner, no such editor, no such writer, no such reader who will take interest in a subject of such high interest for 3 continuous years. It's all instant. Today's news overrides yesterday's news. If I have done a wrong thing and if I am in the front page, I must find another wrongdoer to put him in the front page tomorrow so that I am out. This is the extent of recall today. Now take the third thing, the social media. Thoughtful media was replaced by thoughtless media. Now it is anarchic media which has replaced both. Media meant what? Media meant screening the newspapers, filtering the newspapers voluntarily, not by force. So, there is an owner of the news. The Supreme Court held press freedom under 19(1)(a) belongs to the proprietor of the newspaper. If he is a sole proprietor, it belongs to him. If it is a partnership, it belongs to the partners. If it belongs to the company, it belongs to the majority shareholders in the company. So today, owner, editor, journalist, the source. These are the 4 hierarchy of a newspaper. Somebody comes and gives you a news. Sir, such and such thing has happened. The journalist immediately will not write a story. He will verify from 2 sources whether the man is a genuine man. And if it has happened, he says this has happened there, a murder has taken place. Then he will contact the neighbor or something nearby police station. And then he will write a story. And then this will be seen by the editor. Whether this news is worth publishing. It may be a true news. Is it worth publishing? Because the news says a man of this religion killed the man of another religion. It may be truth. But should it be published? What will happen if it is published? The editor exercises his discretion and says, no, we won't carry. Let's assume the editor also says, let it we carry this. The proprietor will say, we don't want to carry this risky news, it will create problems. This is how the news is assessed. This doesn't take place, took place only in print media. It doesn't take place in visual media. In social media, there is nothing. It is just anarchic. Anarchy has taken over the media today. And this is being celebrated. I'll tell you what are the consequences of this. So, there is no one gathering the news. There is no one assessing the news. There is no one owning the news. Who will not be afraid of this media? Everybody's reputation is at risk. That you are seen with such and such thing. An allegation is made against Justice Prasad. His reputation is finished. Afterwards, he can do 10 other things. He can go to the Supreme Court to get in. That will come in a small Twitter somewhere. There is the mind that controls the news as to whether it is good, whether it is publication worthy. All this is in the law, but it doesn't work. So, all judicial cases, everything that has happened in the past, today there is no owner to own the news, editor to edit the news, journalist to gather and verify the news. This is the state of media today. I don't think the print media can escape the effect of the social media. I don't think the visual media can escape the impact of the social media. And social media is borderless. In a country operating within borders. So every country, every state, every society is under tremendous pressure. Nation is at risk. National security is at risk. Individual liberties are at risk. State and policy are at risk. Judiciary is at risk. Media is also at risk. The entire world is today bothered about social media. To say it is media itself is a misnomer. It's not a media at all. To say social media is a media is to call anarchy order. There can be no order in social media. In fact, they say orderlessness is freedom. That means anarchy is freedom. It's a very strange proposition which is being advanced all over the world by mighty corporates which are controlling this social media to sell. Actually, you must have heard that Facebook promoted quarrels in different societies, in Burma, in Sri Lanka, to promote viewers. Once the chairman of the railway board told me, when there was a bad accident, I rang him up and asked him. He said, Mr. Gurumurthy, we stop some 500 accidents every year. Do you publish that news? This one accident that occurs, that is what is published. Normally, media's interest is also only about accidents. Media is not bothered if dogs bite human beings. Only if human beings begin biting dogs, it becomes a news. Only when there is something out of the way, it becomes a news. But you begin creating things out of the way. You must have heard about one book called The Almighty. Ramnath Goenka gave this book to me in 1980 to read. It's an excellent book. A media owner gave his the entire property, including the newspapers, to his son by will, and said, unless you take the circulation of this paper to 1 million copy, you will not get my other properties. Then that man began creating news and publishing that news, which no other, because if you are creating the news, no other person will know about it. Then he began carrying the news first. He began increasing the circulation, but to beat, ultimately, he planned the assassination of the President of the United States of America. That is the book. That's where he was caught. Why I am saying this? If you begin making the news to put up circulation, to put up your viewership, put up your business, that is social media today. It's all open. Nobody even disputes this today. Who will not be afraid of this media? Every one of us is at risk. Unless you are a nameless person, anyone with a name, anyone with a fame, anyone with a position, anyone with a stake, anyone with responsibility is at risk. The Supreme Court is afraid of the social media. They have openly said this. The whole world is in chaos. Australian government is out to finish this. Chinese government has destroyed the concept of social media. Indian Supreme Court says control this, pass laws. The liberals here are saying no. You see, liberals are the people who will equate anarchy to freedom in this country. World over there is concern, but I don't see any concern in India. Except the institutions like the Supreme Court, or somebody who is affected. So we should think about it. What can the Press Council do? Press Council is an honorable institution. It has its own place in the media. We must understand a nation can be set on the boil. It happened in Burma. It happened in Sri Lanka. It's a proven thing. It can happen in India. And India is not one country, it is 1/6 of humanity. If India burns, the world will burn. If India burns, there will be no democracy in the world. The Brookings Institution said in a paper in January 2019 that India is the only silver lining and golden lining of democracy in the world. Without India, there is no hope for democracy in the world. Because all the Liberal democracies put together is only 13% of world's population. India added, it is 30% of world's population. If you add all the countries which have some kind of elections, it's 46%. 54% of the world lives under dictatorship. Led by a very powerful dictator. Democracy has to struggle. But are you aware that you have to sustain, nourish, fertilize, and brand Indian democracy? You are derailing, devaluing Indian democracy, whereas the world is seeing hope in it. G7 leaders are now trying to promote D10. And I was surprised to read a preface in the G7 leader statement that we are a 2.2 billion democracy in the world. Remove 1.2 billion, 3 billion in that. There is no democracy in the world. That is the stake of India in democracy, and that is the stake of the democratic world in India. It is being threatened by social media. It's a fact. So what can the press council do? Sir, you have a mechanism. You can collect facts. All over the world, what is the opinion about social media and governments, in the judiciary, in the media itself? And what's happening in India? What social media has done everywhere? And what should be done about it? The kind of controls we have about social media is nothing. You hold one man responsible, the man is willing to go to jail after setting the country on fire. You can't do anything. So we should bring more. In fact, we may even have to ban them. Do you mean to say a country can't exist without Facebook? Did we not exist without Facebook? And the present media will be very happy because then they will be at least start publishing, buying newspapers which are printed with great effort. By one tweet today, you can finish the sales of some 10,000 copies of some newspapers. Make it unnecessary. So my feeling is, the press council must think of the larger idea of how to give meaning to the very word media which it has lost today. A media means there is an internal processing of the news without external control. I am not talking about government, I am not talking about even court. I am talking about me as someone who processes the news, whether this news should be carried in the interest of a person's reputation, in the interest of harmony in the society, in the interest of public order, in the interest of communal harmony, in the interest of friendly relations with foreign states, in the interest of judicial institutions in contempt of court. These are the principles which are laid down in Article 19(2) of the Constitution, without which the concept of freedom has no meaning. Today, Article 19(2) is not applicable to the social media. Who is there to enforce it? Sir, it's a very serious matter. We should collectively, all journalists, we owe a responsibility to our own profession, our own institutions. We should bring, at least of course, one good report you gathered but didn't publish, and that's about Cash for News scam. I can understand this will unnecessarily destroy the reputation of too many newspapers. Afterwards, the very moment you said you have such a report, many of the newspapers began behaving in a disciplined way. So once you collect the facts and put it in the public domain, it will be debated and discussed. My view is the press council must do a thorough documentation. If need be, engage some institutions like the IIM and other media-related institutions and see how in the last 50, 60 years the media character has changed, the news character has changed. The concept of editor is gone. So all this will have to be reinstituted if the freedom of media, freedom of press has to have any meaning and has to serve a purpose. Otherwise, it will be anarchic, purposeless, it will make the society mad. I am telling you today what's happening in America. Many of you may not be closely watching it. 40% of the American children do not know what is their sex because of the gender education. Every child today thinks, am I a boy or a girl? A professor at the age of 60 declares, today I am a woman because I feel more as a woman than as a man. You are introducing this is the NCERT curriculum in India. Because this freedom. See the kind of chaos you will create in the mind of your own child. You cannot universalize the world. If somebody does like that, let them. The media has no guts to write against it today. Because the media itself is unaware of it. Even if it is aware of it, how to write against America? Something. We are there to import their idea, their lifestyle, their model, their economy, their policies. This is the assumption in the media today. Sir, I am telling you, there are many youngsters here. Please don't allow this country to lapse into this kind of anarchy. You can never recover it. You make the society anarchic, there will be no public order. If there is no public order, there cannot be even dictatorship. Leave aside democracy. So it's a very serious matter. I appeal to all of you, particularly the press council. I would never have accepted this, but for the fact that I wanted to say this, I request you to do something, some profound, research-based, informative, appealing, and globally acceptable report. It has to come from India, because whatever is published in the concept of freedom in mind, democracy in mind, is being observed in the world. You may not have great regard for your democracy. World has. Because without Indian democracy, there is no democracy in the world, is the assumption on the basis of which the world is functioning today. We have a duty. Media has a role to play. And I would request all of you to see in this direction. Thank you very much. This is my appeal.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts. It was truly enlightening. Now, may I request Srimati Anupama Bhatnagar, Secretary, Press Council of India, to propose the word of thanks.
Good afternoon, Namaskar. Honorable Shri Gurumurthy Ji, the distinguished guest of honor, Honorable Mr. Justice C.K. Prasad Ji, Chairman, Press Council of India, esteemed members of the Press Council of India, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure and great honor to propose words of thanks on the occasion of National Press Day celebration for 2020-21 held today. In its illustrious journey of 55 years, the Press Council of India has justified its role in attaining the twin objectives, that is, preserving the freedom of press and of maintaining and improving its standard. First of all, I would like to express my profound gratitude to Shri S. Gurumurthy Ji for his gracious presence in spite of his busy schedule. It is reflection of his dedication and commitment towards free and responsible press. I am proud to take this opportunity to express sincere gratitude to the Honorable Chairman, Press Council of India for his vision and valuable guidance in organizing this event, which has now turned as an iconic event for the fourth state of democracy. I convey my sincere gratitude to the members of the Press Council of India for their active participation in the event. I thank all the participants who have made efforts to participate despite difficult times in the event and made it successful. I convey a deep sense of appreciation for the officials of the PCI for their hard work and professional manner of organizing the event. I am also very grateful to the valuable logistic support provided by the officials and staff of Constitution Club of India. I thank you for your active participation. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you you all for participating. You may kindly join us for the lunch in the dining area and have a great day ahead. Thank you, sir.